ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरद्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां
प्रभु जी
नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 29, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yesterday we are at verse number 61, and actually we are in the midst of the purport. So please continue from the midst of the purport.
Sure. Thus, the change of the gross body is not very important, but the change of the subtle body is important. The Krishna consciousness movement is educating people to enlighten the subtle body. The perfect example in this regard is Ambarisha Maharaj, who always engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindeyo. Similarly, in this life, we should always fix our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, who is present in his Archa Vigraha, the incarnation of the deity in the temple. We should also always engage in his worship. If we engage our speech in describing the activities of the Lord, and our ears in hearing about his pastimes, and if we follow the regulative principles to keep the mind intact for advancing in Krishna consciousness, we shall certainly be elevated to the spiritual platform. Then, at the time of death, in the mind, intelligence, and ego will no longer be materially contaminated. The living entity is present, and the mind, intelligence, and ego are also present. When the mind, intelligence, and ego are purified, all the active senses of the living entity become spiritual. Thus, the living entity attains his Satchit Ananda form. The Supreme Lord is always in his Satchit Ananda form. But the living entity, although part and parcel of the Lord, becomes materially contaminated when it desires to come to the material world for material enjoyment. The prescription for returning home back to Godhead is given by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.34. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishasi yuktaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So in the purport of this 61st verse, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about the example of Ambarish Maharaj, who is always engaged in his mind on the lotus feet of the Krishna. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravinda. And Prabhupada is giving the alert to all the living entities. Like we have to be Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, our subtle body, which is made up of ego, there is mind, intelligence, and ego, which is contaminated into the material world because of this entanglement into the material consciousness. So once it becomes we avoid from the contamination of material engagements, then it becomes spiritual, and we certainly come to the spiritual platform. And at the time of the death, that will be uh, completely focused on the Krishna consciousness. So we will go back home, back to Godhead. And here, uh, the prescription for going back home, back to Godhead is given in the Bhagavad Gita 9.34. Krishna says that Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mama yushyasi yuktayam atmanam mat parayanam. So always think of me, become my devotee and worship me. So you will come back to me. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse, 62. ममैते मनसा यद्य सावह मिति ब्रुवन् गृह्णीयात्तत्पुमान् अंधकर्म येन पुनर्भव. Yes.
Translation: the living entity labors under the bodily conception of I am this, I am that. My duty is this, and therefore I shall do it. These are all mental impressions, and all these activities are temporary. Nonetheless, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity gets a chance to execute all his mental concoctions. Thus, he gets another body. Purport: as long as one is absorbed in the bodily conception, his activities are performed on that platform. This is not very difficult to understand. In the world, we see that every nation is trying to supersede every other nation, and that every man is trying to advance beyond his fellow men. All these activities are going on under the name of advancement of civilization. There are many plans for making the body comfortable, and these plans are carried in the subtle body after the destruction of the gross body. It is not a fact that after the gross body is destroyed, the living entity is finished. Although many great philosophers and teachers in this world are under the impression that after the body is finished, everything is finished, this is not a fact. Narada Muni says in this verse that at death one takes his plans with him, Grihanyat, and to execute these plans he gets another body. This is called Punarbhava. When the gross body is finished, the plans of the living entity are taken by the mind, and by the grace of the Lord, the living entity gets a chance to give these plans shape in the next life. This is known as the law of karma. As long as the mind is absorbed in the laws of karma, a certain type of body must be accepted in the next life. Karma is the aggregate of fruitive activities conducted to make this body comfortable or uncomfortable. We have actually seen that when one man was about to die, he requested his physician to give him a chance to live 4 more years so that he could finish his plans. This means that while dying, he was thinking of his plans. After his body was destroyed, he doubtlessly carried his plans with him by means of the subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. Thus, he would get another chance by the grace of the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul who is always within the heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanavisto matah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. In the next birth, one acquires remembrance from the Super Soul and begins to execute the plans begun in the previous life. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita in another verse. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesha arjuna tistahati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Situated on the vehicle given by material nature and reminded by the super soul within the heart, the living entity struggles all over the universe to fulfill his plans, thinking, I am Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, I am an American, I am an Indian, and so on. All these designations are of the same essence. There is no point in becoming a Brahman Brahmana in preference to an American, or become an American in preference to a Negro. After all, these are all body conceptions under the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So we'll go ahead. Actually, Prabhuji is having some counselor body meeting today. So he's busy in that. We'll read one more verse. Verse 63. यथानुमीप्यते चित्तम् अभयैरिन्द्रिये हितै एवं प्राग्देहजं कर्म लक्ष्यते चित्तवृत्तिभिः. Yes, translation.
Prabhuji, I'll pick it up if nobody is reading. Translation:
Yes,
one
sir.
can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses, the knowledge-acquiring sense and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. Purport: there is an English proverb that says, the face is the index of the mind. If one is angry, his anger is immediately expressed in his face. Similarly, other mental states are reflected by the actions of the gross body. In other words, the activities of the gross body are reactions of the mental condition. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing. The willing portion of the mind is manifest by the activities of the body. The conclusion is that by the activities of the body and senses, we can understand the condition of the mind. The condition of the mind is affected by past activities in the past body. When the mind is joined with a particular sense, it immediately becomes manifest in a certain way. For instance, when there is anger in the mind, the tongue vibrates so many maledictions. Similarly, when the mind's anger is expressed through the hand, there is fighting. When it is expressed through the leg, there is kicking. There are so many ways in which the subtle activities of the mind are expressed through the various senses. The mind of a person in Krishna consciousness also acts in a similar way. The tongue chants Hare Krishna, the Mahamantra, the hands are raised in ecstasy, and the legs dance in Krishna consciousness. These symptoms are technically called Asta Sattvika Vikara. Sattvika Vikara is a transformation of the mental condition in goodness or sometimes transcendental ecstasy. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji will explain these all the 3 verses tomorrow. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.